All right. Hello,
Like that
everybody.
again.
Welcome to the last trading day of the year. Welcome to a super red day for the Bitcoin miners. So let's talk about it. We do have George. George is pictureless, but he is here.
Hello.
What's happening, George?
Nothing. Did you say a red day or an opportunity day?
Exactly. Both. Well, let's see what people think.
I
I
thought
mean,
it was opportunities all day long.
I do too. I mean,
I
these
even
days are not fun. That's just reality. But we talked about this on our impromptu live stream the other day. We talked about this strong possibility, and here it is. And later we'll get to George and I were talking, and then that's kind of spurred a theory that he had that I think is a big part of what happened today. A bunch of things happened today, and the last day of the year is a wild card. It definitely came up the wrong way this time for sure. So first I'll start out by asking everybody to please smash the like button. We're at 31 likes. This is going to be a rough day. So if you could help us out, help the stream out, help the channel out, let's everybody help each other get through this last day of the year. So for starters, you can smash the like button. And I want to thank everybody. Just on our last live stream, we asked everybody to, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. And we did get to 16,000 subscribers. So we were shooting for that. So FYI, we got there. Thank you so much, everybody, for subscribing and for joining us on good days and bad days like this. So I'm glad people are here because, like George said, this was a red day, but was opportunity knocking? That is the question. I'll let you guys know what I did today, and let's see what everybody else did.
Well, Tom, you told me, did the fundamentals change today?
Right. That's the question. First, I'm going to do a poll right away.
Uh-oh, there's going to be a poll. Let's put it this way. I was so confident in the market. I went into my, what is it called, your margin account?
Yes.
I'm deep into the margin account.
You're not deep into the margin, but you did
deep.
You did go into your margin, I think, for the first time ever.
Right, yeah.
You want to tell the rest of that story, or should we just leave it at that?
No, they know what an idiot I am. They don't need to be reminded.
Fair enough.
George, I got out of my options today went down 35%. So I got out of half of them.
So what George is talking about, for those of you new to the channel or who don't know the story, back before, this run up has been vicious. So back when CleanSpark was at like $6, George sold covered calls at $7.50 for January, and got a bunch of money for that. Well, wouldn't you know, like the next day it went to the moon. So, even on an unbelievably vicious pullback, CleanSpark's still at $11. These were the 750s, which, by the way, were, reasonably out of the money at the time. And
right.
This was less than a month ago. So, it's been a wild ride. So this pullback essentially allowed you to buy some of those back, which effectively is like buying the stock. So you were a buyer today. I'm going to do this.
So think about this. At one point in time, they went to each one went to $4.50. And I was able to get rid of at something 280, 320, something like that. I don't know.
And you got rid of a portion of them today.
Right, yeah. Not all of them, but.
So my poll, or our poll here that we just put up, is: did you sell any Bitcoin mining stocks today? What did everybody do? Because this is one of those days where, there's I guess every day is you have the following options, but on a day like today, you're forced to make a decision. Most days, you can coast, but with this gigantic pullback, and we'll talk about some of these numbers, do you sell? Do you take it? Because a lot of people are in the profit right now. We have had a monster run up despite what happened today. So, did you feel like it was the end of the run and you sold some? Or, conversely, all of a sudden we've got the biggest red day we've had in a long time. Did this look like a discount sale to some of you? We'll do that poll next. Were you buying? Or, did you just say, it wasn't part of my plan today, I'm not doing anything? Which is very hard to do on a day like today. It's hard to do on, we've had these, this is very much like the 3 or 4 months surrounding the previous peak of the last bull cycle where, we would have gigantic green days, big runs, but oftentimes when there was, almost a too good to believe green day, it would be followed by, a horrifying red day. Now, most of the times at that time, all you had to do was hang on for a day or two and you were going to get another one of those green days. So, obviously near the peak of the bull market, it was a buy the dip opportunity. But the question is, what do we think right now? George talked to one of our people we talk to regularly, and he was pretty pessimistic. We won't mention any names, but, all of a sudden he was thinking maybe the peak of the bull market cycle this time, he's saying, he thinks it's going to be $50,000. Is that accurate, George? It was your conversation.
Yeah, close to the halving, 50,000 top. He also thinks it's going to be correlated with the interest rates lowering, which is weird to me, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think conventional wisdom would say the opposite, and we'll go through why. I think
when
that
the dollar. What happens to the dollar, Tom, when we start lowering interest rates? Does it go up or does it go down?
Well, first, I will take that. AG, thank you very much for the super chats. Congrats on 15K, guys. Red days are healthy. Cheers. Thank you very much. It seems like we were just going for 15,000, which we just hit like a month ago, and we actually just hit 16,000 subscribers. So, all of a sudden the channel's picking up a little steam, but you guys know we are a very small channel. So, we do appreciate if you enjoy the content. We do appreciate you guys subscribing to the channel. It helps a lot. And of course, please smash the like button. That also helps the live stream in real time, big time. So much appreciated. So thank you, AG. And here's the thing. When you get into the lowering interest rates, and inevitably, I think right now, conventional wisdom is along with that, we're going to get into some quantitative easing, said a more simple way. We're going to start and I'm speaking in the U.S. I'm located in the U.S., but a lot of other, countries are following a similar path. Money's going to start getting pushed into the economy from the government. That's becoming more and more likely. And at the moment, that is conventional wisdom. We're going to get a lowering in interest rates. We're going to get money pushed into the economy. And all of that goes to the strength of the dollar. And as the dollar weakens, there's always been a very strong correlation. It's not one-to-one. At the moment, it's super tight. The strength of the dollar, and that is measured by we're going to take a look at the DXY, which is an index dollar against other foreign currencies. That's really been an incredibly powerful indicator the last few months. It doesn't always go day by day by day. There's times where Bitcoin just does its own thing regardless, but this has been a time where, as the dollar has weakened, which it has, we're a little period of time into the dollar running down in strength. Now, it's still at pretty historic high levels, so we'll look at that chart in a few minutes. So there's an awful lot more room to go to the downside, but it did run up a little bit today. So here's another day where, DXY, the dollar got a little stronger. And what happened to Bitcoin? And just, we're looking at the 15-minute chart right here. So as the U.S. equity markets opened, you can see Bitcoin was kind of at its high for the last 12 or 18 hours. And then the markets opened and it kind of went down in a straight line. So, but this move was nowhere near. The Bitcoin miners were, they were getting beat up badly. And it went right along with this. In this first 15-minute candle, almost all the Bitcoin miners were green, 20 minutes into the day today, which is hard to believe on a day where almost every single Bitcoin miner was down double digits. Some were down over 20% on the day today. So for this to have been a day that started out green is fairly remarkable. So there was a big sell-off, but there was an awful lot of room to sell off. I mean, when you look at where some of these companies are at right now, even with these giant pullbacks, there's an awful lot of room to the downside. And again, we have been talking about, I try to show the technicals. For those of you who follow the channel, you'll know, I mean, most of the work that I do is in reading the financial statements, keeping up to date, doing my due diligence with, press releases that come out and, what these companies are doing. And my background's in accounting. I was a CPA. And, so for me, I will read the financials, not, cover to cover, including the footnotes. So, and I think there's a lot of information, but obviously you only get that once a quarter. And then we get our monthly operational updates. But in addition to all that, my point is I do look at the technicals, and I know people get very bored when we look at the technicals, and I get a massive, massive amount of comments on my videos in the comments section. Why are you looking at the technicals? Bitcoin, Bitcoin's its own thing. That it doesn't follow the technicals. When Bitcoin does its thing, nothing else matters. And it's like, well, you should take a look back, because Bitcoin follows the technicals, very, very similarly to any other thing that you're trading, be it an equity or a different commodity. There's some basic technicals, and I am not a super heavy, deep technical analysis guy, but I keep my eye on the basic stuff. And sometimes there's things just screaming at you. So I'm probably the last 2 weeks on every single live stream and in all of my weekly update videos, we have talked about the fact that, look, we're very, very overbought. We've avoided a few pullbacks. Now, Bitcoin has avoided a few pullbacks, and the Bitcoin technicals look a little bit better. The Bitcoin mining technicals, I mean, we were so unbelievably overdue for a pullback. I didn't think it was going to be today. So, I'll tell you that. But I did think, I have been saying, I thought next week we might get a pullback. And for reasons, for several different reasons, that happened today. And we don't know if it's done. There's more room. I'll tell you one of the reasons I thought we were going to have a pullback next week. Some of these stocks have had vicious run-ups. They're up, on the year 500%, 600%. Core Scientific's up, almost 2,000% prior to today's activity. So, those numbers moved back a little bit. But so my thought was, not a lot of people are going to want to sell their stock on the last day of the year. This is reverse tax loss harvesting. Stocks that had very bad years, a lot of people will sell in December to take that loss and get that tax advantage. But here's the thing. If you held this stock through the end of last year, when you probably had massive losses, whichever Bitcoin mining stock you may happen to be in, they were all down, on the magnitude of 90% or more. So if you didn't sell then, you're unlikely to sell now, where, you may be back to zero. You may have a big gain. And for those that, joined in and bought during this year, a lot of those people are up substantially. So, the last thing you'd want to do is have a stock with a gigantic gain and sell it on the last day of the tax year. So, to me, I thought that would be a reason we would avoid that today. But, I thought what a lot of people would do is maybe next week start to sell some of those things that they have gigantic gains in. However,
you forget one thing, Tom.
Yes, what is that?
You forget that hedge funds only have to pay a 10% tax on their gains.
So this is the big piece of the puzzle that George and I talked about this morning, and I was looking at this for a very different reason, and then George was like, I think this is a big part of the sell-off, and I think that makes sense. So I'm going to show you what we're talking about. Let me just go to, so if we go to Marathon, Marathon was down 16% today, and that was not, that was not an outlier. Everything was down in this manner. We'll go through the list, but this is not what I wanted to look at. If I go over here, I'm on Yahoo Finance. There's many different places you can look at this same information. So if we look at this list, this tells you the top institutional holders of Marathon, and each company does this. So you'll notice this is as of September 29th. So that was the end of the quarter. Well, today's the end of the quarter. So I was actually very excited, and this is why we were talking about it. I said, oh, you know what? Monday we're going to be able to see what all the institutions are holding, because I bet, a lot of institutions bought into the Bitcoin mining stocks. They're gaining acceptance. They had giant run-ups. I bet a lot of institutions are in here. I bet we're going to see bigger numbers. We're going to start to show adoption. This would speak to adoption of the Bitcoin miners. Certainly would be a strong indication of adoption of Bitcoin by financial institutions. So, I was getting very excited. I thought we would see an awful lot of increase in these numbers, and these numbers are about to come out. Again, today's the last day of the quarter. So as of the end of the day today, if Vanguard or BlackRock or Morgan Stanley or State Street or, Goldman Sachs, you can see this is Marathon, which has a lot of, they have percent of shares held by institutions was 38%. So I'm thinking, man, let's see, that could have popped up to 50 or maybe more than 50. Well, I think, all right, let me take just a quick break. AG just gifted 5 memberships. So thank you very much, AG. That is generous. So we have 5 new members to our Talking Investing squad. If you're interested, we do have a membership. It's through YouTube. You'll see a join button next to the subscribe button. It's only $5 a month.
All right, welcome to Talking Investing.
I'll go through that later. There's a bunch of benefits for that. But I just wanted to thank AG for gifting out. If you're a member, you're able to give a gift to other people of membership. So
all right,
much appreciated. So anyway, I'm thinking, here we're going to see some big numbers. This is really going to help support. Well, George's comment was, oh, these guys don't want us to know. That's the opposite of what they want us to see. So I think a lot of these, and I'm not saying it's necessarily Vanguard or BlackRock. I think a lot of institutions sold out today and got rid of these, and so they don't have to show them at the end of the quarter, and they won't show up in this next round of numbers. So do we know that for a fact? I don't know. We're going to find out next week when all these numbers change. We're going to see. But why, who else was going to sell today? Go ahead, George.
How quickly do they show those numbers? How quickly do they let us know?
We'll see these next week. I mean, so that's why
now I have a question. Can we take a picture, or can we go back and see the history of?
This is why you and I were talking about this morning. I took a screenshot of every single one of these for every single Bitcoin miner this morning, thinking, oh man, I want to save all this info because this is going to be great stuff next week. And boom. So now we'll see. Is this theory correct? Is this what happened? Because I can tell you this, retail investors did not bail out today. There's no way that retail investors en masse decided to take a bunch of short-term capital gains. That's just not, that's how it would work in the US. And maybe if you've held on to them long enough, you'd have long-term capital gains. But it's even harder for me to believe that somebody who's been holding this for, a year or 2 or 3, all of a sudden today decide, you know what, right under the wire, let me sell this thing and on the last tax day of the year. So that just doesn't make sense to me.
Especially when Kathy Woods is saying a 95% chance on the 10th of January for having an ETF.
Yes.
Her words, not mine. Her words.
Right. That was Kathy Woods said that this week. And, there have been a lot of people that really, really, really think that ETF is coming. We did a poll on the last live stream, and The results were 75%. I think it pulled back a little bit from there, but essentially about 75% thought we were going to get on or before January 10th, we were going to get our spot ETF. And the question is, Kay is asking me, do you think the institutions will buy back in January? I think so.
Oh yeah.
I think they will, but I'm not going to be surprised if on top of this pullback today, if we continue to pull back some more and have a few more days of this, because the group that I'm talking about that still has big gains even after today, some of those may decide to sell next week. And now that we have some technical momentum to the downside, I think we may complete this reset of the technicals. So let me just pick a stock and
Well,
go ahead, George.
And there's another thing that comes out, and I think it gets delivered on the 1st of the year, and that is Larry Fink's letter.
Yes, we get our annual.
Think that's not a big deal. That's a big deal, and that letter is going to tell us what's going to happen with the market for this coming year.
That letter is highly influential. So that's a letter to his, I guess,
you
got to
dissect it the right way. Right, you got to dissect it the right way. But if you can understand, then up is down. What is it? Up is down, down is up.
That letter has had massive ramifications. In certain years, it had big ramifications for the entire year. It caused rotations in and out of sectors or stocks, and big changes. So we'll see what that letter says this year. I do think the institutions will. Yes, I think they will buy back in. They're also probably setting up. A lot of these are going to have their own ETF. Spot ETF potentially sooner than later. So yeah, I think I'm not saying it's down from here. So, a lot of people, if you're panicking, my personal opinion is we were way overdue for a pullback. Not so much on Bitcoin, and we'll look at the technicals on Bitcoin for a minute. I don't want to bore people too much, but we'll look at the technicals for a minute on Bitcoin, and I'll show you why. I don't think Bitcoin's necessarily due for a big pullback, but the Bitcoin miners are set up for, maybe some continued sell-off, for whether it be a few days or a week. Now, we got something big happening right after that. We've got, if this ETF happens on January 10th, that's the next big thing. So this will all be in the rearview mirror. Darren, thanks for the super chat. Darren said, SEC rules institutions have 45 days after the close of quarter to report the shenanigans. Middle of February, we get that information.
Okay, shenanigans are so true.
So, and we may have to wait until the middle of February to get this information. So, and then we're going to see what it looks like, because regardless, it will be what was their holdings as of the close of today. So, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, and Scott Richards saying 143 million shares of Marathon traded. So I want to look at that for a minute, because once again, and this is becoming a trend. So if you look at Marathon, average volume is now up to 50 million. This is one of the most traded stocks in the entire stock market. Today was 143 million shares of Marathon traded. So I just want to take a look at something real quick that I pulled up, because I'll refresh this just in case it wasn't the end of the day. So this is a tool on Yahoo Finance, and it does refine this to knock a few things. I'll show you what the parameters are. Well, it's mid cap, large cap, and mega cap stocks that, and traded over, 5 million shares. But obviously these are the most. So these were the most traded shares in the entire U.S. market today. So what was the number one most traded stock in the stock market today? Marathon. 140.
Number one?
Number one at 143 million shares. Tesla, number two at 100 million shares. So to be fair, this is the volume. This is the number of shares traded. Now, if you look right here, you'll see the price. Tesla's 10 times the price that Marathon is. So if you look at dollars, Tesla, I think pretty much every day for years and years is 1 or 2 or 3 in dollar volume traded. The Magnificent Seven, as they call them, are typically, from a dollar volume standpoint. But if you look at volume of shares traded, but it's not just Marathon. Marathon's number 1 overall in the U.S. market. If you go 2, 3, 4, number 5, Riot. So Riot was the 5th most traded stock today at 58 million shares. Then if you go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, CleanSpark. CleanSpark was the 12th most traded stock in the U.S. equity markets today.
There is no way, Tom. There's no way I'm wrong that hedge funds didn't. There's just no way.
I think that makes all the sense in the world, and I can't think of another group that would, create a huge sell-off in these stocks today. So, only time will tell. Let's do a poll and see if you guys think, that's a piece of the puzzle. Or, okay, so first, did you sell any Bitcoin mining stocks today? And the answer was pretty much no. 22% said yes, they did sell some stocks today. 78% said no, they did not sell any stocks today. So I'm going to do a poll in the middle, and then I'm going to ask who bought stocks. But first, let's ask. Sorry, I'm typing as fast as I can. Okay. So just a quick question to see if you guys think we're on the right track or if you think we're barking up the wrong tree. Do you think that institutions and hedge funds were the reason for the sell-off today? And I'm speaking of in the Bitcoin mining stocks. What do we think? What does everybody think? Does this make sense? Drop in the chat. If you don't think so and you think there was another big catalyst that we're missing or not talking about, let us know in the chat. And if you just joined us, if you would do us a gigantic favor and smash the like button, it helps the stream out in real time. Also, I want to thank everybody. The last stream, we got 506 likes. That was our all-time record.
Nice.
So thank you very much to everybody. That was fantastic. Much appreciated. And all these things, believe it or not, like I always try to say, we are a very small channel. So, it seems like those things don't matter, but they actually do help the stream in real time quite a bit, and they help the channel. So, for whatever it's worth, it's free. If you enjoy the content, obviously, if you don't like it, then don't hit the like button. But if you enjoy this content, it's much appreciated. And of course, if you're new here and you have not yet subscribed, we talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners at great length pretty much every day. We do a live stream every Friday when the market closes. What happened?
The hot subject of next year. I know what it is. And we've been talking about it all year long.
What is it?
I don't know. Do you know what it is? It's a new industry. It's not really a new industry. It's an old industry. It's been around a little bit, but they just found the largest deposit in the United States 2 weeks ago.
Was this 2 weeks ago? Because I read an article on this. I think I know what you're talking about because I've read a couple of articles, and I'm wondering if this is recycled news.
Oh, really? Well, regardless, we're now the largest depositor of this mineral.
Yeah, so put in the comments if you know what it is. I did read an article on this, and then I looked into it, and I'm not sure what to make of that article. And we'll talk more once we've identified what it is. We'll talk a little bit more about it because I have some thoughts on that. That I think that might be a little bit misleading, in my opinion. We'll talk once somebody guesses what it is.
These guys are going to know.
Okay, we got somebody who guessed it. And I'm assuming you saw the article I saw. So JL guessed lithium.
Yes.
So in California, they found, and correct me if I'm wrong, George, I don't have that article up, but I did read this
I
over the
don't
last
either.
day or two. They found the largest, I think it was under a C, the largest deposit of lithium like that's ever been discovered. And they talked about the fact that, it would it would fulfill the US need for supply of lithium for like generations. Having said that, a lot of times for those of you who are in the, we're in the Bitcoin mining stocks, if you are familiar with the actual mining in the real world, just because there's a lot of something doesn't mean that it's accessible in an affordable way or that it's of the proper quality. So I think there's more yet to come in this story. I know we have some members that know a lot more than I do about, real world mining of gold and silver and lithium and precious metals and all that kind of stuff. So drop in the comments if you're familiar with this. I was a little bit, yeah. So Craig is saying the Salton Sea. I, I
Yep.
I'm, I know there's others that are more familiar with this than I am, but I was a little skeptical. It seemed a little bit too rosy of a picture. And I also got, if there's something in there led me to believe that they actually found this, a little while ago. Let's see. Somebody
Tom,
said, go ahead.
I did not know that. I
Uh,
did not know that.
I
Sorry.
did not know that. Crypto Golfer said there is plenty of lithium in this country. It's refining lithium that's demanding. That's why Tesla going to concentrate on refining. And Tesla did put out quite some time ago. They want to start refining all their own lithium. They're, with the supply, and this goes all the way back to, the several years of issues that everybody in the world had. Every country in the world felt this. Drop in the comments where you are. We do get people from all around the world. So welcome from everybody. I'd love to know where you're from. That's been a problem around the globe. And Tesla is of the magnitude where they just cannot afford to run out of one of their key core components. And so they're going to refine. It's the same thing with oil. One of the big problems in oil is in the US, we haven't built an oil refinery since I was a little kid. I won't tell you how old I am, but so, that's the problem. We can drill for all the oil we want, etc. But, and there's a reason we haven't done that. And there's some, lack of clarity in government regulations. The last thing somebody wants to do is spend $1 billion making a refinery and then have the rules change and say, this refinery does not meet EPA standards and, you can't use it, or you got to redo it or spend another $500 million fixing it or whatever the case may be. So we've been in gridlock for quite some time here in the US on refining things. So thank you, Crypto Golfer, for that comment about Tesla. Tesla is going to take action if they're not already. They did mention that, and they're of the size and magnitude where they can do that. And whether you like Elon Musk or you don't like Elon Musk, he is a very forward-thinking person. There's a reason he's the richest person by a wide margin in the world, other than potentially some names we don't know at all. But of the people on the list, so that's a good question. Can they get to the lithium? Can they refine the lithium?
No, but I just think that's be interesting for next year, though. I mean, because maybe prices are going to go up, maybe prices are going to go down, but the prices are definitely going to move.
On lithium, on
Yes,
EVs,
lithium.
lithium's used for a
Yep.
lot of things, but obviously at the moment, the most high profile thing is, the lithium batteries needed for electric vehicles. That has been an issue.
And who's even to say that they're going to be allowed to get it?
Right. We don't know, but it was an interesting article. I guess we'll have to keep that on our radar and
Yeah.
see what comes of that. Somebody said this was the toughest investing week mentally. Did not want to sell this week, but gains were feeling greedy. Still holding everything to avoid a big tax bill this year. Cleanspark to the moon in 2024. So Bryce, I mean, I think you just said it. This was a tough week. You know, some of these, we had a day where things were up 20%, 30%, 40%. There were several of the Bitcoin miners, you know, and I only have 19 of these on my list. And so, you know, so to have some up 30, 40, 50% in one day, we had stocks that were up 100% on the week last week, and then they were having 30 or 40% up days this week. Things were running wild. So this pullback, while it does seem absolutely brutal, and I felt it, you know, this is one of the hard parts. I will admit, I look at my accounts during the day. You know what I mean? One of the golden rules is just don't look. And, you know, great. Everybody can say that, but let's be honest. I look. I'll tell you I look. And, you know, sometimes you gotta grin and bear it. My account was not a pretty sight today. Having said that, I sold nothing and I bought a bunch of stuff today. So I'll let you know what I bought in a few minutes. But I had to temper that as well, because, you know, my gut reaction to this was, man, you know, I got it. Everything's on sale. They're giving things away. And I had to take a beat and say, okay, you need to look which positions, you know, are you still looking to fill out? I had to revisit my plan today, because, you know, if I had just gone with my gut today, I would have, you want to talk about going into the margin, I would have just maxed it out today, because today felt like Christmas a little bit late. I know it was a red day, and I'm sorry for those of you if you're down and this was a tough day. You know, nobody likes that, so
Dude,
I'm not rooting for that.
But next week, Tom, next week is just going to be an incredible week, because what day is the 10th on Wednesday? The following Wednesday? So not next week, but the week after.
Let's take a look and check that.
I mean, I have a feeling you're going to see just a ton of move. Let's put it this way. If we see a ton of move in Bitcoin miners, that's a better indicator that ETF is going to happen.
So you think we're going to get moves up next week?
Yeah. Yes. I don't see how we can.
All right, so we have until the following Wednesday for this ETF. So do you think there's any scenario where we may still have Monday in the US is not a trading day? So the market is closed, so we have a 3-day weekend, which really leaves Tuesday, you know, it leaves 4 days next week. So is there the possibility that on Tuesday we have the next round of people who did not want to take tax gains this year, that maybe they sell off on Tuesday and we get a little bit more? So maybe some more downward pressure before it goes up.
I do. I think that, but it's like one of those things. I don't think it's going to be short-lived. It's not going to be a long time. At least that's how I'm viewing it for me and my feeble little brain.
I tend to agree with you, George. And I will say, I'm curious to see how many people, and we've all had a few minutes now to digest this day, but I was getting the sense there was panic out there. Just one of these days, I will tell you, and I know that this group is a little more seasoned in dealing with the massive volatility of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, and, you know, Bitcoin miners are a leverage play on Bitcoin. They're even significantly more volatile than Bitcoin itself is. So I know a lot of you are getting used to this and maybe didn't panic. But some of the newer investors in this space, I have no doubt in my mind, as things started to melt down today, I bet you a lot of people got a feeling in their gut, oh boy, this thing's over. You know, it was too good to be true. I wish I took my profits. I better get out now and take whatever's left. And, you know, it's all done. It's shocking how fast sentiment changes. And so I'm not feeling that at all, but I do know a lot of people get this and it's not a coincidence. This is what they do to us. We talk all the time. You know, this is not conspiracy theory stuff. The big money has an outsized amount of influence, particularly, remember, these are all small cap stocks. Actually, the big Bitcoin miners like Marathon and Riot are small cap stocks. The rest are micro cap stocks or nano cap stocks. These are the smallest stocks in the market, so they are pushed around fairly easily. And, when you've got, I'll go back to this chart, 143 million shares of Marathon is traded. That's more than half of of their outstanding shares traded in one day. So that can create some selling pressure, I guess is what I'm saying. So a couple of things happen. If, they kickstart that selling pressure and they get out first, they start, and then all of a sudden the algorithms kick in and a bunch more starts to get sold automatically. And then you're down to a point where now you're looking at your Bitcoin miner being down in the double digits, and then retail investors that are new and don't know their stocks and didn't do their due diligence and don't have a plan, they start to panic, and then they create more selling pressure. So this does feed on itself inside of a day like this. So I'm just going to go through some numbers. BitDeer, which is, over $1 billion, we recently talked about, there's all of a sudden at the beginning of this year, let me see, I think I have this chart up. Maybe I don't. At the beginning of this year, there were exactly 0 Bitcoin mining stocks that were worth $1 billion or more. Now, several of these at the peak of the last bull market were significantly higher than that. I think the highest was, at one point, Marathon was a $7.5 billion stock in November of 2021. They actually got pretty darn close to that this last week. There's now 6 or 7 of these that got over $1 billion in market cap. So it's not just the nano caps. BitDeer was down 25% today, and they're one of the larger stocks. Stronghold is a nano cap. They were down 25%. That's a TeraWulf was down 20%. Now they've had a great run. I actually put a comment in the Discord in the members only Discord last night regarding a change in opinion that I have personally had on TeraWulf. And I will say, this down 20% day does not change that for me. Their run up has been massive. So I'll just go to that chart real quick because I think it's worth looking at. So if you look at these, I mean, this is a gigantic, massive candle, and that looks awful. But prior to that, this is November 13th. That's a month and a half ago. So TeraWulf was up 254% at its peak yesterday. So, they had a big pullback, but they're still up 167% in a month and a half. So that's why I'm saying they're down almost 21% today, but that still leaves them, if you've been holding on to them for 2 months, you're up 167%. So it's important to keep, the perspective on that. Now, not everybody bought at the bottom, but by the way, this was not the bottom because, this was the bottom in March. So, from there, they had already, they'd already run up 70% from their lows in March. So from their low, they were up almost 500%. I mean, that's a fundamental change in a company. Now, some of these companies are so small that a few of these companies were up at that level, but they had gotten beaten down to where their market cap was $5 million or $10 million. And so, even if you 10x at $10 million, at $5 million, if you 10x, you're still at $50 million. You're still a micro cap stock. That's not what happened to TeraWulf. TeraWulf got up to over $700 million market cap. So, they lost some of that today, but they're still in a much, much better place. So it's important to keep in mind. I mean, for me, you guys know Bitfarms is one of my big positions. Well, this was an awful day for Bitfarms. They were down 12%. But, just from, again, November 24th, that's just 1 month and 1 week ago. So that's 5 weeks ago. Even if we go to this down day, they're still up 188% after having a big down day today. So almost all of these charts look the same. These gigantic down days today by no means erase the massive run-ups we've had in the last 1 to 2 months in most of these stocks. BitDeer, which was one of the worst ones today. But look at BitDeer. BitDeer, now this was 2 months ago, but in a 2-month period, the stock was up over 400%. So, now it's up 257%. It's up 257%. So while that might have been painful to watch today, if you built out a position and it's up 257%, now it's even a much, much bigger position. So, you probably took a hit today, but hopefully you were able to take a breath and go, well, I'm still up 257% from the bottom. So it's not time to panic. All right, let me end this poll and ask the next question. So do you think institutions and hedge funds were the reason for the sell-off today? 211 votes. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating. 76% said yes, they do think that it was the institutions and hedge funds that, were in some part or large part responsible for this. 77 to 23. I'll end the poll. That'll be the final result. So, more than 3/4 of you think that was a big factor. I agree. I think that was a big factor. And I will say, it was George who mentioned that to me this morning. I don't know why that didn't occur to me. I was the one who was obsessed with, what they were doing. And, I missed the forest for the trees on that one. But that's why we have both of us here.
Yep.
So let's ask the
But do you think, Tom, well, I guess you kind of already answered this question, but do you think there's going to be more of a sell-off and then it's going to go back? Or you think it depends on Bitcoin? What do you think?
Let me finish typing this and then I will answer that question.
If you haven't hit the like button, please do so. We do this every Friday at 4:15, and we do a member stream Tuesdays at 4:15. And Tom goes into a lot more other stocks, by the way. We talk about Bitcoin miners mainly, but then he does a deep dive. What do you do, Tom? What exactly do you do here?
What is it that you do here? And I will say for the month of December, I've been so knee deep in updating my year end and information going into next year that I've taken a little pause. But for all the rest of the weeks of the year, part of the membership is the members so after the market closes on Tuesday, we have a members only live stream. And one of the things we do on that is the members recommend stocks that they know and they like. So, it's not stocks that I may or may not be familiar with, and they get to vote and pick a stock for me to do my homework and do a deep dive on. So, I do a video each week other than, like I said, the month of December. So we'll get back to that. And so there's a large content, library of content available if you're a new member to the 5 people that just joined. And if you're interested in joining, you can hit the join button. It's next to the subscribe button on the YouTube page. It's only $5 a month. So we do a deep dive. And just so that you guys know, it has been a lot of different companies in a lot of different industries. Some of them have been smaller Bitcoin miners as well. So if you're interested in some of this micro cap Bitcoin miners, I've got a bunch of deep dives in the members section, and we'll continue to do that. And, we talk about the fact when I do a deep dive, I'll oftentimes have to spend 20, 30 hours researching. And usually that starts with, I will read the financials from cover to cover. I'll read the investor presentation from cover to cover. So to me, I do a detailed. Now, obviously that doesn't make me an expert on the stock, but I do think it allows for, a basic amount of information to introduce. And we had some great stocks and some great recommendations from members this year. So hopefully, that.
So you're not saying that there's a correlation with market cap and exahash.
I am not saying that.
Does that metrics even make sense?
I know there's all kinds of. Here's one thing you will not get on this channel. And I'm probably the only one that doesn't do this. And I've been asked to do this many times. There's certain correlations. There's certain, what do you want to call them? Data points, analytics, where, comparing market cap to exahash, for instance, would be one. a lot of those in a vacuum, I don't find any value in those, because here's the thing. I don't care how many exahash you have. What is more important to me is, what's your gross profit? What's your cash gross profit? So I do, for those of you familiar with the channel, I strip out the non-cash items when I take a look at these, mostly through the crypto winter. That was try to figure out which one of these companies am I going to invest in, which one of these companies is, best suited to survive if this crypto winter continues. So, that's really where I started to focus on the cash end of this, because there's big non-cash numbers. Depreciation is a big number on these income statements, but nobody ever went out of business because of depreciation. That's a non-cash item. That's money's already spent. It's gone. So you go out of business on, what's your cost, what's your energy cost per coin? Are you paying hosting fees? How much overhead do you have? So, if you have a great ratio of exahash to market cap, but you're mining Bitcoin at a negative gross profit margin, that's the more important number. So, I look at different numbers. I don't have a magic formula. I know there's a lot of other people out there that do that, and they come up with a grand super formula and rank the Bitcoin miners. I just try to provide information. I look at these in a lot of different ways. I try to put things in context and, let you guys take from the information, that I gather. And a lot of that is just time consuming. So, this is my thing. I'll call it my hobby. It's what I spend the vast majority of my time on. And, I'm investing in these companies as well. So I need to do my own due diligence. But that's what I try to provide. The things that I think are most important to look at when you're making an investment decision. Now, I make my own investment decisions, and we always talk about the fact everybody has a different risk tolerance. Everybody has a different time frame. Everybody has, different entrance, exit strategies. Are you a day trader, a swing trader? Are you a buy and hold trader? So, all those things could be different reasons. There is no one right or wrong answer. So, and I think there's going to be a lot of winners in this space. I will continue to say, as I have said, I think not every single Bitcoin miner is going to the moon, in my opinion. I think some of these will lag far behind the leaders, and some of them may not make it at all, through the halving and, beyond. The 6 to 8 month window after the halving, I think is going to put a real strain on a bunch of these Bitcoin miners. And I think there's going to be some that, depending on the price of Bitcoin, depending on the difficulty level of the global hash rate, there may be some that are maybe don't make it. Maybe they go into chapter 11, maybe they get bought out, maybe they just go out of business and get liquidated. So, I don't know. I don't think everybody's out of the woods yet. Having said that, I do think there's a bunch of these that are already, they're not even thinking about the halving. The halving is not a problem for them. There's a bunch of these that are looking at the halving as an opportunity, and they've shored up their balance sheet.
Tom, how did any do today, Mawson and Gree?
Let's take a look. Any was actually, there were two in the green today, and there was really one in the green. DigiHost was up 5%. I did not look to see if there was news on that. I'm not sure. And Any was basically flat, up 0.6%.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
That was a strong day. Let's see. Green
was
down.
You know what that tells you? You know what that tells you?
What?
That tells you there's no institutional money in it.
Oh, that's a great point, George. That's a
yeah. That tells you there's so FYI, I'm just letting people know there's just no institutional money in that thing.
Yeah, no exodus out of Any probably means nobody had entered into Any from an institutional standpoint. That's a good assessment. Yeah. Papa D, thank you for the super chat. Do you think the miner stocks will be up Tuesday? I actually think that there's a pretty good chance we're going to have 1 or 2 more days of a pullback. So, as I always say, nothing will surprise me. Anybody who's surprised in this sector, in this space, just hasn't been here long enough, because anything can happen on any given day. We don't know what news will come out over the weekend. If Bitcoin gets a little momentum, which it could, but I do think there's the potential, and I'll show you why. I'll show you why I think that. And I'm just going to pick one, but all these look, basically similar. So I happen to have already been on BitDeer because we were just talking about them. If you look at BitDeer, so BitDeer from, October 23rd through December, yesterday, essentially, was this yesterday or 2 days ago? The daily RSI, which is one of the, that's one of the basic things I look at, and there's a ton of technicals. I do think this one is, the daily and the weekly are, I think, if you look at them over the long term, they're fairly consistently a decent indicator. So this crossed 70, which is in general considered overbought. Now, I do think with the Bitcoin miners and Bitcoin, sometimes as high as 80 is still pretty much within realm. And you can see the last time this ran up, which was in June of 2023, it did get up over 80. So that's pretty frequent for Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. But in any event, this was very, very overbought. This is, one of the things that says something is overbought. This was getting close to 90. And so that once you're that high, yes, you could keep running, but you're on, in my opinion, the way I look at it is you could keep running, but you are on borrowed time. Now, I'm a long-term holder of these Bitcoin mining stocks. So, I'm not going to sell my stock because it's at 90, but I'm certainly not going to be adding to my position when I see the daily RSI at 90 and a run like we just had on all these. So for some of these, I've been in a holding pattern. So I'm just going to grab another one, Marathon. So Marathon had the same thing, a very nice, consistent run up. Yes, there's always bumps in the road, but even when this pulled back, it pulled back to almost 64 and then ran back up again, this did get to 91. 91 on the daily RSI. That is extremely overbought. And we know we don't need the daily RSI to tell us what this chart tells us. From October to 2 days ago, Marathon, which is the largest by market cap, this is not a nano cap stock, going up a couple $1 million. This stock went up, $3 or $4 billion in a couple of months, 337% run for the largest one by market cap, and they are the largest by production as well. So yes, it was clear these were very overbought. So once you so I've been waiting, and we've been talking about the fact that, a pullback is likely, and it's natural, and it's normal, and it's healthy, and these dips can represent buying opportunities. So, we got back to, on Marathon, it looks like we're at around 60. So Marathon hasn't been at 60 on the daily RSI since back, over a month ago. But that's not typically a line of support. So what would normally, and we're not in normal right now. So I understand that. So, for those of you who say, well, we may keep running up, we very well may. But once this starts to move down, you can see, look over the course of time. Sometimes we found some support here at 50. That can commonly happen on the daily RSI. So, we're not even anywhere near 50 right now. So if we were, and that's an optimistic view. So some kind of, run down to 50, whether that takes 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, that would be pretty quick. Maybe we find support here and then head back up. Or, it would almost be healthier, as much as nobody wants to have this happen. it would be healthier to have a full reset. You'll see if you look back, the technicals do apply. These always reset, right? This reset in October 4th, this reset, December 2022, reset in May. It gets under 30 is considered a reset. Over 70 is kind of overbought. And again, in my opinion, over 80 for the Bitcoin miners. But you can see oftentimes somewhere in the low 70s was the end of these runs. So I'm going to get rid of these because these are all a mess. But you can see, like, I just went through Marathon, but pick a Bitcoin miner and their chart, their RSI is going to look almost identical to this. I'll go to CleanSpark because that's one that. So for CleanSpark, this is one I was particularly worried about, and this is one of my top 2 largest positions. CleanSpark went over 70 on November 24th. Other than this tiny little period right here, it had 2 days at 68. It's been over 70, which means it's been in overbought territory for over a month. This is very, very uncommon. So this was incredibly due for a pullback. So I didn't think it was going to be today. I thought it was going to be maybe, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and next week. But, it started early. So again, I either way, maybe we find some support at 50 and go back up to 90. Because there's a giant catalyst next week, remember. We have, not next week, but the following week, in just a little over, a week and a half, we have potentially a spot ETF coming. So we could bounce off of 50 and have another run back up. So that is possible. But, do I think this was a one-off and it's straight up from here? I would not at all be surprised. And I don't even like saying this because I know nobody wants a pullback in these stocks, especially if you own them, but it would almost be a more healthy trajectory if this did do a little bit of a reset. And it does not have to go all the way back to 30, but something, at least retest 50 and find some support down here and, and create this as a level of support and go back up. Something like that would be, in my opinion, more healthy, because what you don't want is to fall off a cliff. And that's a little bit what happened today. Right. These were all so overbought. They fell off of a cliff today. So is it a one-day event? Is it a one-week event? I don't know. I do, bigger picture, I am extremely bullish on Bitcoin in 2024. All right. 2023 is in the books. Even though this last day of the year was not great, this was a phenomenal year for Bitcoin. It was up over 150%. So 2023 was great. I think 2024 is going to be better. So, I'm not calling the end here by any means, and I am still buying the dips. I want to get to a couple of super chats. Darren Thomas, thank you very much. 1.19 billion worth of Bitcoin moved off of centralized exchanges on Wednesday, marking the largest single-day outflow since December of 2022. So that's some of the best news that we could have. The more of this that moves off of centralized exchanges, that's really the supply. So as we move into an ETF and as we, people want to accumulate Bitcoin going forward, if the more that gets pulled off of exchange, the more that sit in these wallets, and, I think it was, the last time I looked, 70+% of wallets had not moved in a year, meaning, they had been buying and holding for a year or more. So the more of this that comes off chain, and George, if you're there, this is something you talk about all the time.
Not your keys, not your coins.
Not your keys, not your coins. And George had been telling people and begging people, if you want to help Bitcoin, if you want to affect Bitcoin in a positive way and help the run, get your Bitcoin off of exchanges, because the less Bitcoin on exchange, the more that changes the supply-demand equation of Bitcoin. Right? There's very few. The supply is relatively set. And yes, I understand they're still mining Bitcoin, but we're well over 90% mined. The halving is, let's go to the chart. The halving is in 107 days if all goes as planned. So, we're less than 4 months away from the halving, 3.5 months away. And then the rewards are going to get cut in half, which will add even less to the supply every day. So not much is getting added to the supply. And if people are buying this and taking it off exchange, this is the other reason a spot ETF is such a monumental game changer for Bitcoin over the long term. And I think this is important. This is not a one-day event. So people who are thinking, we're going to get the effects of the Bitcoin ETF the day it's announced. We might get a great bump that day. We may sell off that day. I don't know, what the market's going to do on that one day. But what that will do is with these spot ETFs, as most of you probably know, every time somebody puts money into that, Bitcoin has to be bought. That amount of Bitcoin has to be bought and held. So that increases the demand. So when you've got BlackRock and ARK Invest and a slew of some of the largest money managers in the world look like they're getting ready to have a spot ETF approved. So every single time that money gets put into those, it's taking Bitcoin out of the supply. And so this, the supply demand equation will just continue to cause upward pressure on the price of Bitcoin. So the spot ETF,
So Tom,
go ahead.
do you think does this change people's opinion about the spot ETF on the 10th? Because to me, I was thinking about this with the amount of people that, shares that move today, it kind of means that it doesn't look like the ETF is going to happen on the 10th.
I don't know that I would correlate those two things.
You don't think so?
I just think
I'm hypothesizing.
Well, I really do think it's what we talked about earlier. I think that a lot of these funds do not want to show these Bitcoin miners on their balance sheet.
Yeah.
And, I think they will buy, back in quickly. That doesn't mean, January 2nd. Same thing I'm going to say about the Bitcoin ETF. I think that, they may buy back in over the next week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever the case may be. Now, it is a weird situation because you do have this potential catalyst, but here's the other thing. Big money may be planning a sell-off, I'm calling it a sell the news on the spot ETF, but I want to clarify. When I say that, I mean in the very short term. So the day we get this announcement, Bitcoin could go down, right? It could be, oftentimes it's a buy the rumor, sell the news. So, but that will be a very short-lived situation because as I was just going through, the spot ETF is going to be the gift that keeps on giving forever because more and more money will go into these ETFs. So even I'm going to use Vanguard because, BlackRock is the giants. As time goes by, they're not going to go, okay, we got a spot ETF, let's put $100 billion in it. We got approved on the 10th, let's do that on the 11th. No, they will put money in over time and, their own clients' money. That's just one piece of the puzzle. So, on day one, it may be, 0.1% of what they're going to do over the next 18 months. So that's not going to be the catalyst. But every single day from that day forward, they're going to put more of their own clients' money in. And, externally, retail investors are going to start buying these spot ETFs. So the more money that goes in there, the more they have to buy and hold Bitcoin. These are going to be some of the largest wallets out there. Most of them, all but one, and I can't remember which one, is using Coinbase as their custodian. So, there's going to be a massive amount of Bitcoin that continues to just come offline essentially every passing day, week, month. So I would not focus on what's going to happen the day that this ETF gets approved. I would focus on the fact that this is very bullish long-term for Bitcoin throughout the rest of this 4-year cycle. And I would even argue it's going to affect what the next 4-year cycle looks like. It's one of a few reasons that I do not think we're going to have a crypto winter in the next 4-year cycle. It doesn't mean I don't think we're going to ever have a bear market again. I do think we'll have, like everything, we will have some pullbacks. So there's two different things, some natural pullbacks. And with Bitcoin, a 20% pullback in a short period of time, 2, 3, 4 weeks, that is an extremely common event. We got 3 of those in 2023, a year where Bitcoin was up 150%. So this was one of the great years for Bitcoin, and we still had 20% pullbacks. So I think we'll continue to see those. The more vicious these run-ups are, the more likely we are to have a 10, 15, 20% pullback. But, a bear market for crypto is a little bit different. That would be considered bear market territory for the equities. But to me, the crypto winner are 70, 80, 85% pullbacks. I'm not envisioning those, but could we get a 30 or 40% pullback in a bear market sometime in the next cycle? I think that's highly likely. I just don't think it's going to be as severe, and I don't think it's going to last as long. We're a long way away from that. So, take that with a grain of salt, take it, with whatever it's worth. An awful lot of things are going to happen between now and then, but that's how I'm seeing things shape up, big picture. And to me, I do think we're still very early in this cycle. We are way ahead of previous cycles, particularly of the last cycle. So, and I think we'll get the rest of the run. I'm starting to see some people say, well, the whole thing's just happening early. So we're going to peak very early. We're getting near the end of the bull market here, but I'm not seeing that in anything. I don't see that in the technicals. I don't see that in the fundamentals. And there's several other macroeconomic things that are happening that are just extremely bullish for Bitcoin in the next 12 to 18 months, that have nothing to do with cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is just, as a byproduct, a beneficiary of, lowering interest rates, quantitative easing, the federal government pushing money into the market, the weakening of the dollar that has already begun. Let's take a look at that chart. So this is the chart of the US dollar. As we've been looking at this for quite some time on the channel. As I like to point out, this green line prior to April of 2022, we got back up to, just under 104 on the DXY. Again, this is the US dollar against a basket of other currencies around the world. This is a 20-year high. So we've just spent the better part of more than a year and a half bouncing above and below what is a 20-year high. If I go to the 1 week on this, you're going to see, this is not normally where the dollar is. So there's an awful lot of room. Let's say the dollar were to pull back, down here. There's a little bit of support here. This goes all the way back to 2018. So that would be a low for the last, 6 years, but really that's still fairly high. This goes all the way back to 2002. So this is 22 years of action on the DXY. So you can see there's a lot of room left for the dollar to pull back to a more normal level and weaken, if you will, which has always directly helped cryptocurrency run. And, Bitcoin obviously is the leader in the cryptocurrency universe. So this is a big, big factor. And we're starting to put red candles together, and we're starting to see a pretty significant trend here that the dollar is weakening, and we haven't even begun lowering interest rates yet. All we did was finally get the Fed to fess up and admit, they're going to lower interest rates in 2024. They'd been sticking to some talking points, higher for longer, if you guys remember. We're not going to necessarily be able to lower interest rates in 2024. And if we do, it's going to be very late in the year. While, when they put out their dot plot chart, whatever you call it, that's when each member of the Fed actually puts pen to paper and says what they think is going to happen next year. And on the average, they were looking at 3 rate cuts next year. So if that's what they were willing to put pen to paper on, here's what the market thinks, right? Because the Fed is going to, they're still trying to fight inflation. So, they're still trying to keep that at bay. And it seems like that's going well at the moment. But I'm going to fast forward. This is the Fed Watch tool. This is basically what the futures think rate hikes, and now rate cuts are going to be. So this is the March meeting. The next meeting is January 31st. I'm just going to take a 1-second timeout. Clive Chang, thank you very much for the super chat. It is much appreciated, especially on a tough day. Thanks. All right. Down $30, still up over 150%, looking to double down on options out to 2026. So Clive, somebody who took this as a buying opportunity, and thank you, Clive, for continuing to keep us updated on your journey. We've had a lot of people, and Clive is a member as well. I know we've had a lot of members share their stories, and there were some people that had just absolutely phenomenal years this year. A lot of people were able to take profits. We did have somebody on the last, I think it was the last live stream, let us know they were able to pay off their mortgage in full with their profits from the Bitcoin mining stocks. So, those are the kind of things we absolutely love to hear. So congratulations, even though today was a rough day. Hopefully for most of you, you can put it in perspective that I think things are still trending in the right direction. I'm still extremely bullish. So, and that doesn't mean that I think Monday's back off to the races. Like I was just talking, well, Monday in the US is a holiday. I do think there's a chance this pullback continues for a brief period of time as the technicals reset. Now, there's a bit of a clock on it with the next gigantic catalyst coming on January 10th, which is the potential for a spot ETF. And remember, that is not a guarantee. So the other thing that could happen is, this sell-off could happen, next week. And then on the 10th, maybe we get the news that we don't get the spot ETF on the 10th. That could continue the sell-off. So a 1 or 2 or 3 week or 1 month, sometimes even a 2 months of going sideways or a little bit down, that is very common. So if that happens, and that's why I'm trying to be measured. Earlier, I was talking about the fact that, today I was just tempted to double down. If I didn't take a deep breath and review my plan, I would have just bought everything today. I did buy some stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to let a day like this pass. So I did some dollar cost averaging. I did some buying the dip, but, I tried to keep it in check. So what I wanted to show you guys is by the March meeting, we're at 85% chance of a rate cut. This would be a 25 basis point rate cut. This would be a 50 basis point rate cut. So, that's almost 14% chance of a 50 basis point. I don't think that's going to happen. But if I fast forward all the way to September, now you're looking at 1, 2, 3. The market's pricing in either 4 or 5 or 6 25 basis point rate cuts, including the September 2024 meeting. So, the Fed's telling us 3, and you can see this is the market's interpretation is 3 means 6. And time will tell. We're going to get a lot of data throughout the year. So, none of this is a given. This is all data dependent. But to a certain extent, it's my opinion that regardless of the data, the U.S. cannot afford to have interest rates at this level. And I'm just in a vacuum looking at the debt that we have. We just won't be able to pay our debt if interest rates are sustained for, the next 18 months at this level. We need to start refinance. Go ahead.
Was it ALLY? They have a 5.25 CD for 12 months. That's the best I found.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, isn't that great? Yeah, I'm doing it. So.
Yeah, some people are starting to, 5% starting to look very attractive. And, there's an awful lot of money still, even with the latest numbers that came out, still just under $6 trillion in money market funds. So, that number's not going to go to zero. But a more normal number for that is $3 or $4 trillion. So there's, maybe $2 or $3 trillion wrapped up in money markets that's probably going to exit that into the equity markets, into cryptocurrency. We're not going to get every dollar of that, but even if we get 3%, 5% of that, whatever the case may be, all of these things are additional pressure, upward pressure on demand, while the supply is remaining the same or going down, decreasing. You just have all these catalysts that are demand, pressure, upward pressure on demand. So in the end, this becomes manipulation can only last for so long. The supply and demand aspect of this is going to take over, and it's already starting to happen, in my opinion. Justin, who is a member, just gifted 5 Talking Investing memberships. Thank you very much, Justin. Much appreciated. To the new members, I hope you guys enjoy. You can check out a bunch of the content that's already there. You can also link up to our members-only Discord, where we have a fantastic conversation going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And, of course, we do a members-only live stream every Tuesday after the equity markets close in the U.S. So thank you very much. That's generous.
Did we lose our only female member? The one from New York?
I don't know. I don't know. For whatever reason, the investment space in general, and this channel in particular, we get analytics, from YouTube. We are overwhelmingly our viewers, subscribers, etc. At one point it was telling us 100%. I think that was a little bit off, but 95+% for whatever. It makes no sense. I don't understand. And we did just have, thank you to whoever left a comment. There was somebody left a comment. She said, I think I'm your oldest female subscriber and viewer on your whole channel, love the channel, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you to that person. And I don't know. I don't always necessarily believe the YouTube analytics, but it does seem like this is a male dominated space for whatever reason. But I know a lot of women that invest and are interested. So I'm just not sure. Maybe they just don't like us, George. I don't know. Weird. It could be.
I guess so. I mean, they're threatened.
Clive, thank you. Clive is clarifying, down $30K, not $30. So rough day today all the way around. To put it in perspective, yesterday was not a great day either. Wednesday was insane. Yesterday was not very good. And then today, much worse. So, but all in all, as we just looked at a lot of the charts, you can see all in all, we're still trending massively in the right direction. So I was, a lot of time, we love the live streams where everything was through the roof and everything was green and it's a celebration. And I do think it's important to get together and celebrate the days that are, big winners, because most of you in this space, have had a very painful journey. 2022 was brutal. If you held Bitcoin miners, it was even much worse. All the miners were down between 91 and 99% from their highs, from their peak in November of 2021. So we all lived through that. A lot of us dollar cost averaged in, stuck with this. And, even as much as maybe 7 or 8 months ago, we started to have people say, I'm back in the green in total. And since then, we've had people talk about, 6-figure days, never mind up 6 figures in total. We've had, a dozen people from time to time tell us they had a 6-figure day. So, there have been a lot of people that have had a great run here. I don't think it's over. Obviously, today's a little bit of the opposite. So, it's also important that we get together on these days and discuss and keep things in perspective. So thank you, Clive. I'm sorry that you had a down day today, but I'd be interested to know if you dollar cost averaged and into anything else. I think you had just mentioned that you were, looking to double down on options out to 2026. So, Clive's doing what I'm doing. I view this as a buying opportunity. So I haven't told you guys what I did. I did buy some things today. I dollar cost averaged into Riot today. That is one of my larger positions. I dollar cost averaged into HUT today. That is a fairly new position, right after the dip. And I've owned HUT on and off over time. Right after the merger, there was a really nice dip and buying opportunity. Sue came on the channel. We had a nice conversation. If you guys haven't seen that interview, I thought she provided a lot of information. And then we've got a lot of updates on stuff she was hinting towards, but couldn't really talk about because they wasn't done deal yet. So I did buy that dip, and it's up huge since then. Obviously, a big pullback, 17% pullback today. So I dollar cost averaged into that. And I opened a new position in Hive very recently, within the last month. So I dollar cost averaged into that as well. And I will inform everybody, for the first time, I bought Cypher today. So I opened a position in Cypher.
You're crazy, man.
So I did some buying today. And again, I didn't go insane. I just I bought pieces. I added to the puzzle. I wanted to buy a lot more, but I had to really hold back on some of these because, Cypher's down 14%, Riot was down 12%, Hive was down 15%, Hut was down 17%. When you get moves like that, it is very tempting to, push your money into the middle of the pot. But I tried to be cognizant that it's only one day. While this is a good buying opportunity, I need to pace myself, because in the event that this continues next week, or maybe even for a little bit, what if we get bad news on the ETF and it's another month or 2 or 3 before that goes through? So, there's always, you got to prepare for both sides. So my plan
So
is
Tom,
to go
when
ahead.
do you know when do you know it's time to buy in again? What do you look for?
Well, to me, obviously, on a day like today, this screams at you to buy. This is a gigantic. I try to do. I always say I dollar cost average in, but really it's opportunistically I try to buy the dips. So there are days where things are up and I will dollar cost average. If, it's been a while, and so you can, technically, if you're straight dollar cost averaging, doesn't matter if it's up or down. You're just buying at your given interval. You're adding your whatever amount you're doing. But I am a little more opportunistic than that. I try to average in on the dips in general. So a day like today is solid gold. If Tuesday is another down day, I will buy again. I'll probably buy less than I bought today.
So
So I
are you
continue.
saying like 10%? Are you saying like 10% down, 5% down, 20% down? What do you look for?
On a down day, it depends on
Yeah.
what kind of run we're in, and where, it's I don't have an exact, I can't tell you an exact formula. I will buy if it's down 4%. And I try to treat a down day like Hut's down 17% today. So, there's sometimes where I'll buy Hut if it's down 3%, particularly if there's a day, and this happened to me, I was able to build out Bitfarms and Cleanspark positions that, those have been very good to me. And I was able to do so because there were many, many days early in this year, and then again in August and September, where sometimes a lot of the board would be green and Bitfarms would be down 1% and CleanSpark would be down 2%. So those are tiny moves to the downside, but it's a lag. When you see them lagging, to me, that's a different type of buying opportunity. Because I will still tell you, those are two of my highest conviction plays. There was half of this year where those stocks were treated like they were garbage. And then as I did videos on them, people would literally be calling them garbage. This stock is garbage. This is trash. This is going to zero. Somebody fairly recently left me a comment. CleanSpark is garbage. This stock will be 30 cents by, and I don't remember what the date was, but it was like 90 days from now. And it's like, okay, well, that's your opinion, but I'm buying the dip. So everybody has to have their own strategy, and it can be whatever you want, but what it should be is, you should know what your strategy is and then stick to your plan. And days like today and weeks like this week make it very difficult to stick to your plan, because, depending on which direction, you may panic sell on a day like today, or, my inclination was I had to hold myself back. I wanted to buy everything under the sun, but it's just, it's not time for that. There could be a lot more buying opportunities ahead, and I have to keep that in mind. I like to keep a certain amount of money on the sidelines, dry powder, as everybody says. I want to have some buying power in the future. So as much as I would have loved to just put everything in today because, everything was on big giant sale, I had to temper that and just pick and choose, the things that I thought were the best. There were some of these like Cypher. I've been talking about Cypher for the last 2+ months on this channel. And it's one that I missed, and I can't get them all. At that time, I was buying other things and I just didn't have the resources. And then Cypher ran up like crazy. So now this was a couple of days in a row where Cypher pulled back to a number I didn't expect it to ever get to again. So I was able to open a position in Cypher. So that's one I thought was gone forever. And I'll tell you, when it's gone, I don't chase it. So, a lot of people will be like, but, Cypher's my favorite and I think they're going places. So I don't care if I already, missed my entry point. I'm going to buy anyway. So, for me, I just let them go because there's a lot of stocks in the stock market. So if I miss that one, even if it doubles later, hopefully I've made other good decisions. And so I don't like to chase, I guess would be my point.
Who does, Tom? Is it time for another poll?
It's time for a poll. So this poll was interesting. Did you buy any Bitcoin mining stocks today? 46% said yes. 322 votes. Thank you, everybody, for participating. That is one of our all-time highest votes. Also, if you just joined us, if you would be so kind, if you would smash the like button, it helps the stream out in real time. It helps the channel out. So if you enjoy this content, if you're enjoying this live stream, please smash the like button. So again, final on this poll. Did you buy Bitcoin mining stocks today? 46% yes, 54% no. So I thought maybe it was going to be a little bit higher than that. So very few people sold. I think that was 22% said they sold, 46% said they bought. So that's more than a 2-to-1 ratio of people that bought versus sold. But that means that, the rest of the people stayed on the sidelines. So, those were the three things we talked about. And it looks like there was some of each. And by the way, there's no wrong answer. It depends on where you're at and, how much money do you have on the sideline? How much can you afford to buy? And that's why, we always talk about have your own plan, do your own thing. And it's good to listen. I listen when I can. I watch other YouTubers. Sometimes I can go a week without really getting the opportunity to, but when I, especially if I'm up late at night and I'm having trouble sleeping, I will try to listen to some other YouTubers in the Bitcoin space. There's a few people that talk a lot about Bitcoin miners, and then I'll sometimes search and find some people that maybe, are just doing more and more people are doing Bitcoin mining videos over the last few weeks. So if you've noticed, if you follow any people, some of the very big financial YouTubers all of a sudden are doing Bitcoin mining videos. Specifically, Marathon is getting a massive amount of attention.
So I have a question, Tom. How do we tap into that? Never mind. It's not for the stream.
Great.
$143 million, and you're only going to get, are you even going to get 1 million views today?
Me? Us?
Yeah.
1 million?
Us. You. Yeah, 1 million.
No, we do not get 1 million views in a day. However, within the next few days, the channel will cross 2 million views in total. So,
oh, nice.
That's a landmark. So thank you very much, everybody who's watched our videos. Like I said, we're a small channel. And remember, we follow Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. We do, in the past, we've followed a lot of other small cap stocks, but this is a pretty small space. But what we're trying to do really we are trying to just spread information and spread the word so that people do their own due diligence and gain awareness towards the Bitcoin miners, because I do think these are fantastic leveraged plays on Bitcoin. That's the other, I won't say argument because I didn't participate in it, but I got inundated for the first half of the year. You're wrong. These are not leveraged plays on Bitcoin. You don't know what you're talking about. I got called every name under the sun. But now that we are here and the year is done, I will do my weekly update, which will now be a year-end update. And you're going to see that the majority of the Bitcoin miners 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x to what Bitcoin did this year. So these are leveraged plays in both directions. For those of you who have been around long enough, you know that in 2022, these were a leveraged play to the downside, which was painful. Well, now in 2023, they were a massive leverage play to the upside. I do think we're set up for that again next year. Now, I don't know that they're going to go up as a percentage. Bitcoin was up 150%. Some of these were up 500-600%. It's tough to put back-to-back up 600% years together, but I do think there's massive room to the upside for a lot of these. And a lot of these haven't had their share of the run yet. So there's going to be a lot more room to the upside, in my opinion, for the right stocks. Anthony, thank you very much for the super chat. Insane right now, all ETF applications coming in. So yeah, I mean, I think today is the deadline. So everybody, for what, there was a tweak they wanted to all these, and they wanted them all back in today. So that's maybe what Anthony's talking about. And there's an awful lot of reasons to believe that we're going to get these things approved on January 10th or before. I've been extremely skeptical. Those of you who watch know, I thought they would probably make us wait a little bit longer. I've been saying confidence was high this would happen before the halving, but I was skeptical about as to whether or not it would happen on the 10th. But I do think there's a really good chance of that now. Again, I'm planning for both, right? That's why, I bought on a limited basis today.
Bitcoin's going down.
I'm watching Bitcoin. We're at 41,707 right now.
Oh, no.
Well, if you're in Bitcoin, I know, George dollar cost average is into Bitcoin. If you want, you can let people know what your strategy is there, George.
Buy high, sell low.
That is not your strategy. You're not going to sell your, but when are you going to sell your Bitcoin?
For 10 years. In 10 years.
So there you go. George's time frame is 10 years. So
I did something different, Tom. I actually bought more than I thought I was going to buy so I could trade them. And then, like fractionally trade them. There's an account. You can actually, there's this little game. Never mind. I won't tell you and bore you with it. But where they found that if you have like a couple extra Bitcoin, that there's a way to sell it, buy it, sell it, buy it, and there's a company, Coinbase, that doesn't charge you any fees up to $10,000.
Okay, Coinbase is one thing. I'm not buying and selling. Everybody, please be careful where you put your Bitcoin and who you deal with. Do your due diligence, because the last thing you want to deal with is a fly-by-night company that may or may not even actually exist, and all of a sudden your cryptocurrency's gone. So please be careful. I can't tell you to buy Bitcoin, and if you do buy it, I can't tell you where to put it, but I would please be very careful. The amount of people with bad intentions in the crypto universe is very high. So
astronomical.
Please be careful, which would also lead me to our regular public service announcement. If you get a message and you think it's from me, it's not from me. This is rampant on YouTube. People, pretending to be YouTubers, and even on a small channel like ours, we get a lot of people that they pretend they're me. They reach out to subscribers and, try and tell them, hit me up on Telegram or whatever the case may be. None of that is ever me. None of that is ever George. We don't do that. If you want to talk to us, we have a Discord, so you can identify us in the Discord. If I spend most of my time in the members only Discord, so you'll know it's me if we're chatting in the members only Discord, but I will never ask you for any money or anything else of any kind. The only thing that we do have on this channel is we have a membership, the Talkin' Investing Squad, which you can join by hitting the join button on the YouTube page, which is right next to the subscribe button. For those of you who don't see a join button, I know certain mobile devices and certain Apple products don't show that. So there should be a link below where you can press the link and join. So it's much appreciated. It's $5 a month. It does help support the channel. So, if you're interested, if you enjoy this type of content, you are welcome to join the club, if you will. And we have a fantastic, fantastic group of members, a lot of which I see in the comments right now. So thank you. Special thanks to all of the members. Welcome to the 10 new members today. 2 of our members gifted 5 memberships each. So welcome to the new members. Thanks to those 2 members. And hello to all the existing members that are on the stream, and to the subscribers and to the returning viewers. If you have not yet subscribed, consider subscribing to the channel. It does help us out a lot. So if we look at, I'm going to go to the Bitcoin one day just for a minute, because I was telling you, unlike the Bitcoin miners, which have been screaming that they're oversold and due for a big pullback, I don't think Bitcoin's necessarily in that situation. Having said that, something did happen today that has not happened in a long time. On the daily RSI, you're going to see I have a blue line here. I think you guys can see this. Yes. There's a blue line at 50, which is basically neutral. This is the relative strength index. It's an indicator of whether, a stock or a commodity, wherever the case may be, is oversold or overbought. And 50 is considered neutral. So Bitcoin crossed above 50 on October 15th. So that's almost 2.5 months ago. It's been above 50 ever since. That is a long, long run above 50. You can see, for those of you who have left comments in the past, that Bitcoin doesn't follow the technicals, you will see all my yellow lines here. This is what happens. We get overbought and we reset all the way back down to, this. And these are all this year, right? This was from January to March.
All right.
We had a full reset on the daily RSI down to 30. Then from April to June, this time we got to 35. So that, didn't quite get back down to 30, but almost a full reset from overbought territory, over 70, down to 35. Then we ran back up over 70 and then reset in August, back down to 21, which is very oversold. So this was a great indication. Now you had to wait for it. It took a long time of going sideways, but, the run, ultimately this resulted in a giant run for Bitcoin. Now the next time, at which we're in the middle of right now, we've been bouncing above 50 for a long time. So today, and the daily candle has not closed yet today, so we will see where this ends. If this closes, we are currently below 50. We are now at 48.75 on the daily RSI. This would be the first close below 50 in 2.5 months. So there is some support. If you look back in September, we got down to around 45 for several days, ran up, bounced back off of 45. So who knows? Maybe we'll find a little support at 45, or maybe it is time for Bitcoin.
You mean 35, Tom?
No, I'm talking about 45 on the daily RSI.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so there's a little bit of support at 45 on the daily RSI. If we go past that, it's possible we go down to 30 and retest. And again, in the long run, this is always a good thing. A full retest, ends up, we get, there's a lot of room left to run to the upside after that. And there's buying opportunities on the way down. So if that's what happens, then great. If not, we may very well find some support where we are. bounce somewhere in this between, 45 and 50 neighborhood on the daily RSI. Okay, so getting out of that, to George's point, if we look at Bitcoin itself, the line that we have been focusing on, first of all, welcome, Bryce. Welcome to the Talking Investing Squad. Thank you for joining. Much appreciated. Bryce said, had to buy in on the channel before the 2024 gains. Welcome. Yes, welcome. And hopefully lots of good times ahead. So the other piece of this puzzle is we've had a purple line on our chart, which you can see at just under 37,885. This was the daily candle close on November 15th. So that was only a month and a half ago. From that day, for about 2 weeks, this served as resistance. So, that's not a long period of time, but it was pretty solid resistance. As soon as we crossed it, we never looked back. So I have been mentioning, I like to mention, there's always some lines of resistance and lines of support, and it's important to look at both and have a plan for both. So at this point, from where we are right now, if we were to go retest this line, that would be about 9.5% move to the downside. So from where we are right now, from the peak of, a few weeks ago, that would represent a 16% move to the downside. So none of that would be unusual. So I would not at all be surprised to see if, next week this sell-off continues and we go test this line of support. I think this line is likely to hold, but, there's no guarantee of that. So I've been saying I think that, 48 is the next very natural point. So I do think we're headed towards 48,000. If, we have a retest in the middle, so be it. I will probably be dollar cost averaging in, buying the dips if they occur. But I do think, whether or not we go retest this line or not, I'm looking for the next line, I've got it at 48,240, and that is that is not my random number. If you go all the way back to March 28th of 2022, we had a really nice bull run. This was basically the end of the last bull market. From that day on, it was the crypto winter. So it was down pretty much in a straight line from that day all the way down, to 17,000 and change from 48. So this was March 28th was the end. And on that day, we peaked at 48,240. So I have that as my next price target. I think we may find a little bit of resistance there, and I do think we're still up from there. Like I said, I am bullish on Bitcoin for 2024, but that's my next line I'm looking at. But I do like to point out both of, some support and some resistance, because it's entirely possible we go retest and find some support. It's unusual. We have now gone, since this was back September 11th, 12th, and really we had been trading sideways since August 17th. So, this was testing a line of support for a month. We have not done that since. So from September to the end of the year, almost, 3.5 months, it's just been up with a couple of times of a little sideways. We have not had a pullback and tested a line of support. So that's why I look at this and say, entirely possible. Entirely possible, and by no means unhealthy. So I'm not worried if that's what happens. So I like to talk about these things because, if Tuesday is another red day, there'll be another group of people, and, I'm not saying it's anybody here, but if it is, there'll be another group of people that panics and says, oh boy, Friday wasn't just an anomaly. Here we go. We're back down to crypto winter. But there's some natural points. Now, we will reassess, if things keep going down and we see a reversal in the trend. This is a very bullish trend. We are the entire year. We're now 12 full months into a bullish trend for Bitcoin. So right now, there's nothing showing us a reversal of that trend. If that happens, we'll certainly talk about it. You don't know. We don't know the future. But right now, I don't see any reason to believe that. So until that reverses, until we test a line of support and it fails and we start having lower lows and lower highs, all the things that tend to indicate we've had a reversal. None of those things have happened. So, unless and until we see that, I will continue to buy the dips. That's me personally, not financial advice. Obviously, you guys have to be comfortable with what you're doing so that you can have the conviction to hold through the tough times. I'm going to end this poll. 386 votes. Thank you, everybody, for contributing and participating. We're at 297 likes, so we're almost at 300. If you guys are just got here, if you would be so kind as to smash the like button, it's much appreciated. Let's end this poll. So the natural poll that we have not yet talked about, that we've been asking this every time. One second. Okay, will we get a Bitcoin spot ETF on or before January 10th, 2024? So January 10th has been the day everybody has circled on the calendar. I believe that is the day. That's the day that the SEC either has to approve or deny. Yes, thank you, George. The ARK Bitcoin spot ETF. So what it looks like they've been doing, for those of you following along, which I know is many of you, they've really been communicating massively over the last week or so with a lot of the applicants for a spot ETF, telling them certain ways to tweak their applications, trying to get everybody on the same page. It looks like there's an effort to, approve a bunch of these, simultaneously. And that does make sense. I don't think the SEC is going to get into the business of picking winners and losers and, approving this one and, holding off on others. So that doesn't mean every single one will all get approved on the exact same day and it'll be January 10th. But I think that'll be the first batch. And I do believe it will be more than one. And the SEC has given a lot of signals that that's what they seem to be moving towards. With this amount of communication, the communication has ramped up drastically, and some of the stuff's getting very specific. So it does seem like we're in the home stretch. That doesn't mean January 10th is a done deal, but it seems like we're moving in that direction. Crypto Fever is asking, who do you think has more power and pull to get stuff done, Gary Gensler or Larry Fink? That should answer your question.
Oh, you know the answer to that question.
If an ETF will be approved.
We both know the answer to that question. That's why we won't answer it.
Well, I'll read the rest of what Crypto Fever said. That should answer your question on if ETF will be approved on January 10th. And then Crypto Fever says, I think it's a all capitals yes.
I hope so, dude.
Sourmelon Gaming responded and said, and these are both members. Thanks for being members. Sourmelon Gaming responded, I'm sorry, but I doubt we will get the ETF in that time frame. So we got some mixed people. Justin said, I believe we will get at least one approval. Crypto Fever said, the amount of details and sheer amount of amendments that have been rolling out up until today and this very minute hints that it's a resounding yes to the approval before the 10th. So I do think that's a big indicator. Nothing's ever guaranteed, but I agree with that line of reasoning. I mean, they are sending some serious signals. So if it's not a yes, I will scratch my head as to why. But, Gary Gensler has been very very stubborn on this issue. And, he's drawn some things I think just seem to be, he's just drawn a line and he's just holding the line. So we'll have to see a lot of discussion on whether or not that's going to happen. And obviously, that's going to be a major event. We don't know what it's going to mean that day. We talked about that a lot. Is it going to be a sell the news? I think, I think that possibility exists in the super short term. If it is, it will be for a very short period of time, in my opinion. The more important story is it sets up several permanent vehicles to take supply of Bitcoin out of circulation, and that just continues to increase the supply demand equation and favors continued upward momentum in Bitcoin in the long term. So in even the short term, just not necessarily the super short term, the next day or week or month, but over the next 6 months, year, and years to come, that will just continue to be pressure, upward pressure on Bitcoin. Stephen Miller said, either way, they're coming at some point soon-ish. So, I mean, that's my feeling. I don't know. We'll see. We're not too far away. We're less than 2 weeks away from finding out the answer to whether or not it happens on the 10th. But if it doesn't, and there's a big sell-off, I will do exactly what I did today, which is try and contain myself and in a measured way buy the dip.
Oh, remember Wednesday, Tom, the stream we did?
Yeah.
We were all talking about it, buying a dip.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And we got it.
And here it is. Yes,
Yep.
you went out for a minute. I think you're going through a dead zone. George is mobile at the moment.
Dead zone.
But it sounds like you're back. So let's see. We leave this poll open for another minute. We got 91 votes, and it's very close. This is actually getting less and less people are thinking the answer to this is yes. This was a more favorable result the last time we took this poll. Kirby said I was a few thousand away from breaking even until today. Kirby, hopefully don't get discouraged. I don't know where you were, but it sounds like you're within striking distance of break even. And then, the next step is profit. So, JR, I bought the dip. I'm Chaz, I'll buy Mara at 20 or 26. Yeah, so there's a lot of things.
I can't believe Chris Dominator isn't in. Did Chris show up?
Very, very early. One of the first comments I saw Chris say, Riot, something to the effect of Riot is number one or the best of all time or something like that.
What did he say? He told you so or no?
I know Chris flips between Riot and Marathon. Neither one of which had a good day today. I mean, let's just say what it is. Riot was down 12%. Marathon was down 16%. Marathon has run up way, way ahead of Riot. So, over the last couple of months, Marathon's been the big winner in those two. But I don't think that conversation is over. I think we're going to be talking about that for the next couple of years. I'm going to be doing a deep dive shortly on Marathon and a separate one on Riot. So you can look for those to come pretty soon. January is going to be a gigantic video month for me. There's a lot of stuff going on. Also, I will be putting out...
comment your vote?
I'll be putting out my top 10, my personal top 10 list of Bitcoin miners for the year 2024. And I will review at the beginning of 2023, I think it may have been the first day of the year, sometime plus or minus, I put out my top 8 Bitcoin miners for the year 2023. So I'll go through the results of how those fared. We'll take a look at that, and then we'll talk about and then we're going to look at my top 10 for 2024. Again, my personal opinion, and hopefully I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that as well. And then I'm going to put out another video of five Bitcoin miners I'm worried about. So at different levels. So obviously we'll talk more in the video, but some of that is coming up over, the next weeks. A lot going on. A lot going on in Bitcoin, a lot going on in the Bitcoin mining universe. I saw, Darren, Browns versus Bills AFC title. We won't talk football for too long. Some people get disturbed. But, hey, listen, I'd be thrilled if it was a Browns versus Bills AFC title. Grew up in upstate New York, so I'm a Bills fan. Niners in the NFC. We'll see. Right now, the Bills are still trying to make the playoffs. So that's step one. I'll be happy if that happens. Trying to follow a conversation, but I think I'm jumping in the middle of somebody's conversation on the chat that I can't catch up with. So Kirby said $2,500 away from breaking even. So, hey, listen, that could be next week. That could be Tuesday for all we know. JR said Cypher shares at $4. Yes, please and thank you. So, JR, I'm with you. I opened a position in Cypher today. I've been eyeballing it. I talked about it. I thought I missed it. And so I'll pull up the Cypher chart. And again, guys, just because I did something doesn't mean it's the right thing to do, and doesn't mean you should do it. I know you guys already know that, but I just like to say it. I think it's very important that people don't just do whatever YouTube, and a lot of you probably listen to a bunch of different channels, but, please do your own due diligence, because, not everybody necessarily knows what they're talking about, and there's a lot of different opinions, and everybody has a different situation that they're in. So Cypher just in December 13th, and I had been talking about them, from this dip I was talking about buying, and I didn't do it. I missed this because I was buying other things. I missed this, and then all of a sudden this happened. Right? So going, to a few days ago, that's a 131% move in 2 weeks. So I felt like, well, I guess that ship has sailed on to the next. But, then we had a nice, and really, that wasn't even a fair assessment, because, to here it was 143%. But now we've pulled back from the top to the close today. That's 26% pullback. So yes, I did decide, and you can see I had a line here. It got under this line, and I felt like, all of a sudden it was back in potentially a buy zone. And if it goes all the way back down here, I'm not expecting that. I'm not hoping that or wishing that. But if it happens, then I'll get to add to my position. We'll see what happens. All right. Does anybody have any other big thoughts? I think I'm going to try to wrap it up. It's the last day of the year. So I hope all of you guys had an absolutely fantastic year. We still have the New Year's holiday ahead. So hope all of you guys enjoy your long weekend. If you're in the U.S., it's a long weekend. I'm not sure what everybody else does. Either way, enjoy the new year. Looking forward to 2024. I'm very bullish on Bitcoin for 2024. I'm very bullish on the Bitcoin miners. I don't think it's going to be across the board, bullish year for all investments everywhere. But I think where we are in this Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, I still think there's a lot of good things ahead. So I think I will also talk more in the first couple of weeks of the year. I very rarely talk about the rest of my portfolio. So I may share some of those stocks. I know they're not ones that this group in particular is interested in, but maybe I'll at least let you know a few other things that I'm personally doing, just for everybody's information. George, did we lose you? Are you still there?
No, I'm still listening.
Any other thoughts? I think we're going to try to wrap it up. I think the year's over, the week's over. I know it was a red day, so please, hopefully, everybody, please do not be discouraged. Don't go into the long weekend with a long face just because we had a red Friday. Try to look at the year. I will do a weekend update and show you what happened this year. So, try to catch that and put things in perspective. This was a phenomenal year for Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. So I hope everybody participated to whatever extent they could. And, I hope you guys are making money.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, George. Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much. Have a great night. Have a safe and happy long weekend. And we will see the members in a Tuesday members only live stream. And of course, we will be live next Friday for everybody as always. And, I say this, and we did do it this week. If something big happens in the middle, we'll jump in and do a live stream. So you can always look for that. If you are subscribed and you hit the notification bell, you'll get notified if we're doing a live stream. So please consider subscribing. Thank you guys so much and have a fantastic weekend.